Welcome to Risky Business, a show where we get to explore new and innovative ways to understand and reduce risk by bringing together some of the leading professionals in the transportation and the insurance industry. My name is Scott Grandis. I hope you enjoyed the show. Let's kick it on.
Well, welcome back to Risky Business. For any of you that are following my podcast here, this is my favorite thing that I do. I'm always trying to think outside the box. And when I say we, Phil and I together are both trying to do this. We're trying to shift an industry here, kind of open people's eyes to new ways of looking at risk and kind of shift the paradigm as to how we look at it, how we score it, and how hopefully we save some lives together. So today I have my good friend, Phil, my fellow old-fashioned drinker from across the pond in Manchester. And I'm excited today to talk a little bit more. I want to say telematics, but today's not really about telematics. It's about data and how it all works together, though it does have the telematic component. But anyways, Phil, welcome. Thank you for being here. And first of all, I absolutely love the jersey. It's about time that you recognize the right best player in the NBA.
Hey, this is a generational thing. I've got a 9-year-old son who you met last year, obviously, who came over, who's Lakers obsessed. So I did think twice about wearing the Lakers jersey, but I thought, no, this is your host, this is your show, so I'll respect the host and I'll go with the vintage Jordan first season 23 jersey. So that's why I'm wearing this.
Now, wait a minute. The Lakers jersey you have, is it the 23 for LeBron or is it the 6?
Hang on, because this is how close we were to wearing today. It's the 6.
Okay. So you do realize that 6 is just a multiple of 2 and 3, right?
I do, yes. I do. I know all this.
Anyways, we'll talk a little bit more about who's the best basketball player of all times, Michael Jordan, in a minute. Yeah. Phil, tell us about yourself. Tell us about Matrix. Give us some background.
Okay, so CRO at Matrix, formerly Matrix Telematics, now Matrix IQ. And I can say a bit about why we did that. So telematics, as you know, it's a very saturated market. There's hundreds and hundreds of people selling the want-and-wares of telematics and cameras and so on. So about a year ago, just over, we pivoted away from just being another telematics black box provider to a data company. So we thought probably time to address the name Matrix Telematics. So we flipped to Matrix IQ, hopefully to underline some sort of level of intelligence with the strapline using data, connecting data with intelligence, or connecting technology with intelligence, I should say. I should get our strapline right. But the idea was that we didn't have to sell our hardware in order to gain insight into what's going out there, not just on the road, but in the wider technology space. So we've changed quite a lot over the years. When I first came to the business, it was very much about driver behavior, data from our box, but now we're looking at applying that data effectively to reduce risk and also gain other benefits.
Yeah. So 2 things. Number one, anybody that thinks that LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time should not use the term IQ. Just kidding. No, but anyways, we've been working together for 4 years now, I think, right? About that?
Well, it was the last overseas trip pre-lockdown, and we managed to get where we are now between us without a single visit over best part of 18 months, 2 years or so. And we've done pretty well, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And so I've seen the shift. Think about it. When we first started this, we were shipping out your boxes to everybody, right? And now I think we're probably at 60 or 70% API connection versus boxes. So it's been a big shift.
We tend to see that. And that's part of I know one of the questions you always ask me is focus on what's different about Matrix. And I guess there's 3 areas I always have in my head. And the biggest one really is being collaborative with, I guess you could term, our competitors. The OEMs coming to market with their own connected solutions. We thought we'd have to move away from selling our boxes and deploying our boxes, which is good because they're saying that hardware eventually breaks and software eventually works, right? So we've got the software working well, but hardware's hardware. It's a logistical headache. It's a cost that people have to incur. And working in insurance where the majority of vehicles are connected, we're quite often deploying a device that does exactly what the device already in situ does. Yeah, we're moving away from deploying devices so we can harvest the data from what's in place. We don't want to interrupt the commercial relationship between the supplier, so a Geotab and their customer, that's their customer, right? We want the data so we can bring it all together for insurers to get some sort of level playing field, because our risk scores differently to how Geotab score theirs, how Samsara Analytics scores theirs. So if you look at an 80% risk score it means nothing across different providers. So that's a big part of what we do is we bring the data in, we normalize it, and then we can either present it on our platform or we can work with you so you can present it on your platform. And it seems to work quite well.
Yeah, I agree. And if you think about this from an insurance perspective, when you look at the different ELD providers and camera providers, if I were in their shoes, I would support what you're doing because it's not realistic to go to an insured and say, oh, you have to switch out all of your hardware because the insurer wants to see your data and you have to use these boxes, right? So I think what you guys are doing is absolutely brilliant because insurers now have the ability to say, oh, I can look across all hardware and get a normalized score that means something to me. And I think that's brilliant. We've seen it work. It works wonderfully. The data, it can be very, very rich. Let me say one more thing before I say this. So you got a big day coming up, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the day? Now listen, hold on. Before you say anything, you have my friends in the London market. If you're listening to this, you need to pay attention now. Put your pencils down and listen. This is a good one. All right. So tell me, what's the important day? When is it?
So August 31st, it's pitch day in Lloyd's lab, something that you know all too well about. And I've sort of seen the pain as you've gone through it and you've come out the other end. We're really excited to announce that we've been selected as part of the last 23 companies to make it down to the last 12 companies, I believe, to join cohort 11 of the Lloyd's lab. So we have pitch day to get through where everyone's vote is crucial to get us through. But I think we've got a really unique proposition and hopefully the audience feel the same and vote us in and we can really start to stride forward with sort of the mecca of insurance, if you like.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this. Again, any of my London friends that are listening, this is a big deal. In order to get from pitch day into the lab, Phil needs support. And so it's important to show up, to vote, and to support him going forward. But why don't you talk a little bit more about, because you guys do a tremendous amount in the UK and Europe. Maybe talk a little bit about how you've shifted things there. You can keep it as broad or as detailed as you want. And then maybe talk a little bit more about how that's going to translate into what do you want to do for the market?
Well, I think it goes back to the old question is in terms of what does telematics do for risk? What does telematics do for claims? And the answer is quite simply nothing. It does nothing. We see fleets all the time. They install telematics and think, right, that's a silver bullet. Our fleet's safe. The drivers will drive well. We'll save money on fuel. But unless you proactively use that data, it doesn't do anything. So we talk about, the eye-watering cost of claims in terms of pulling a truck out of a ditch in the States. When you told me, I couldn't quite believe it. Managing the costs of a collision, you can do that quite easily with telematics data. But we've always thought that prevention is better than a cure. And if we can prevent the claim from happening in the first place, then that's far better for all concerned. You save lives, you save costs, and you reduce premiums. We've always been about using the data. So we have a separate division, and this goes back to the first question about what's different about Matrix IQ. We have a division called Risk IQ, which looks at proactively using the data. So because we normalize data from multiple sources, we can say to these big fleets who've grown through acquisition and might have several telematics providers, here's your risk. And what we do then is we can launch a series of interventions where we look at the bad drivers, typically the lowest 20%. We can enroll them in e-learning courses. We can stage remote human-led interventions to bring about an improvement in that fleet. So think of it like a waterfall. You catch the lowest 20%, you throw them back to the top, they've improved, the next 20 come down, and you keep on improving that risk. We first sort of gotten onto this years ago when we looked at a fleet of sort of set-top box engineers. I don't know if that translates. So over here we have Sky and BT that provide cable effectively, and quite a lot of engineers on the road. A fleet grew from about 200 vehicles to 500 pretty much overnight. They went to market with a very poor insurance claims history, and they were quoted £1,200 per bonnet on the renewal. So they came to us, we fitted telematics, and we went through a process of actually having these human-led interventions where we look at the lowest performing drivers, like I say, we intervene with them, we improve them, and they go on. So in a relatively short space of time, after 6 months, we go back to market and start talking about the renewal process and saying, rather than cap in hand, please sir, insure our fleet, we went with them and said, look at the difference we've made to this fleet. They were incurring 100 tyre replacements a month over 500 vehicles. That's not wear and tear. And we started to see that the majority of the drivers in the red went to amber in our scoring matrix, and the ambers went to green. So we could say, look where they've got, look where they were, look where they've got to, and we helped secure them an £850 per bonnet renewal. And this is going back to 3 or 4 years now. It's quite a while ago. Since then, we've evolved the process of human-led intervention. We've automated a lot of it, and we're able to use automated e-learning modules to help improve that risk. So really, we're trying to shift the needle on improving the risk ahead of managing the claims, because you improve the risk, you don't need to manage the claim.
Yeah, exactly. And I hear this all the time. There's all this data floating around out there. How do you capture it properly? How do you make sure that you tell the story properly? And then how do you help folks put stuff in place to change the story? That's huge.
One of the problems you've got is you've got all this data, but it's all siloed. So one of the things that we're both doing actually is trying to put this data into one place. So if you think of, you've got telematics over here, then you might have your license checking data here. You've got fuel spend here, service maintenance repair cost here. And I mentioned claims data, you have claims data as well. So once you can start overlaying them on top of each other, you soon realize that actually you don't have to trade safety off against financial savings, because if you drive safer, then you will spend less in fuel. It's that linear. So we're trying to present all that data in one place so people can see, actually, we know there's a link there between driver behavior and fuel spend. We know there's a link there between driver behavior and claims frequency and claims cost. How do we prove it? And that's what we're doing. We're pulling all this data into one place. And that's really been the message that we've led into Lloyd's lab, really, with this. We're looking to remove some of the barriers that insurers face in trying to make sense of this data, and then prove the trend links between behavior and risk.
Yeah. And you have a new thing coming out, right? Or it's out.
We do. It's out. We're going to be launching in the US soon as well. Over here it's called Route IQ, but over there it's called Route IQ, just to get that right. So
welcome to America.
It raises a good point. So we've actually just taken on 2 new people that are working with us. So hello to Cindy and Tim to really start pushing this. But Route IQ, really, it's on the face of it, it's route optimization or route optimization, tomato, but it's more than that. So with the Route IQ solution, we look at a number of things. Because we can smart link data into our platform, regardless of who the provider is, we do a number of processes to try and make the fleet more efficient. So this is typically advantageous of fleets making multiple stops or drops. So your courier fleets, your facility management fleets, that sort of thing. We look at the jobs, we look at the journeys, and we do a benchmarking exercise where we sort of say, give us 2 weeks worth of data, and we'll see where you've been, what jobs you've done, and which vehicles did them. And then we'll do 2 things after that. We'll resequence the jobs, so we'll reorder them in the most efficient way. And then we'll also reallocate those jobs. So we'll start to put the right jobs to the right vehicles. So you shouldn't have as much crossover on routes or routes as you're currently seeing. But beyond that, there's a much wider plan with the route to carbon net zero. So the electrification of vehicles, it's not just as simple as saying, well, that vehicle averages 50 miles a day, therefore we can transition that to electric. It could be 100 miles away from an EV charge station. So by overlaying the charging infrastructure and a few more sort of points that we need to consider as well, we can start to recommend which vehicles in a fleet can transition realistically to electric. And then you're into a whole world of decarbonisation and ESG benefit.
Yeah, dude, that's the big thing, which leads us to another project we have, right? Every time I talk to somebody, they're like, how many projects do you have in the hopper?
Well, that's it. We've got an opportunity, haven't we, here? And theoretically, and this will need an insurance brain, we've got one in mind, haven't we, to come and help us with this. But if we're optimizing vehicles and we're reducing the mileage traveled by anywhere up to 30%, there's a risk calculation there. If you're traveling fewer miles, you're less likely to be involved in a collision. So therefore, is there a chance here to wrap this into an insurance product? And that's what we're really trying to build here, is a route optimization mandated insurance product.
That's a little shout out to, what was that? Hashtag Chris Moore.
Chris. Well, I didn't know if they mentioned his name or not. So yeah, no, I mentioned the name. We both came up with the same name, didn't we? So yeah.
Everybody knows he's the innovator out there. He's heard a little bit of it and he's excited about it. But yeah, I think the opportunity is huge. When I think about the final mile space here in the US, a lot of these companies are 20 to 50 vehicles maybe to stop the day-to-day to think about carbon footprints, electric vehicles, route optimization, and that crossover that needs to happen as we move forward to go look at this grant thing. I think creating that fuel, I don't want to say fuel efficiency, but carbon reduction in a box, if you will, right? And help folks understand in a fashion that they can afford and do because they're smaller, help them understand here's how to optimize the routes. And then here's your breaking point to bring in electric vehicles. And oh, by the way, if we put together the right algorithm and the right data, we can also do something unique with your insurance, which is to get to a mileage-based model in the final mile space, which I think is huge. And then you got to backfill that with the right drivers and all that good stuff. But dude, I think it's a huge opportunity. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah. And I think the whole world is looking at ESG, whether you're an insurance company looking at your corporate strategy on ESG, or whether you're a fleet looking to reduce your carbon emissions. It's really at the forefront of what we're thinking as a business, and has been over the last couple of years, even down to the fact we changed the branding from blue to green. For many reasons, green means good generally in a scoring algorithm, or a scoring presentation, but green is green to the environment. So that's one of the big things we're trying to encourage. And that's another benefit really of SmartLink that we've put out to many people, is that the cost of producing a plastic box, shipping that plastic box to us, then shipping it across to you, then sending an engineer out on the road to go and fit that box. There's a calculation there. What's the footprint of that box? So if we can smart link data from what's already there, there's no devices having to go to landfill. There's no shipping CO2. It's all for the greater good.
Yeah. And I think too, I'm excited about some of the stuff we're working on. I can't say the names of them, but we're going to start to get into some of the collision mitigation technology. That's something we're going to work on together, and bringing that data down in and seeing how that overlays with everything else. I think that's exciting. And the more that we get towards these electric vehicles, I think the more data we're going to be able to get out of them. And then autonomous vehicles. Oh my goodness. Imagine what that brings, a whole nother level of data.
Well, that raises a huge question mark, doesn't it? And I did hear the Chris Moore podcast earlier in the series, and it does raise the question. People can relate to a driver working all the hours he can to provide for his family, but can they relate to a big corporate autonomous vehicle manufacturer who's not done enough testing on a vehicle and it's involved in a collision? So I think he articulated the point far more eloquently than I just have there. I know where it's coming from, in that we've got machines versus humans. One you can accept an error from, one you can't accept an error from. So yeah, good luck, insurance company. Thankfully, that's not my battle. Those guys can sort that one out. We'll provide the data.
Same here. It just reminds me of the old Knight Rider series, right? KITT, the car KITT.
Yeah.
David Hasselhoff's debut, Knight Rider.
Hey, there's an endorsement we need to bring into the equation right there.
That's right. That's awesome. One of the other things I'm excited about is, and this is one of the projects you and I are talking about, again, will remain nameless. And I know you guys do this already, but going right into the computer systems of the trucks and getting the data right from the OEM. That's huge too, because now you're getting all kinds of stuff and it's coming right from the truck itself. You guys are doing that already, right?
Yeah, we're doing it already. We actually connect in the UK and Europe with the largest supplier of tachographs as well. So when you start to get into the regulated industry where drivers should be taking mandated rest breaks and they're not doing, well, how does that tie into their risk profile, and how does that tie into the claims history? But yeah, there's the newer vehicles come out. You're integrating with computers, like you say, rather than machines, than mechanical objects. So the amount of data is frightening. So it's about pulling out the pertinent points that we can relate to risk and enable the betterment of risk management.
Yeah, I think that's a game changer. I'm super excited about that part of it, that and the collision mitigation, and seeing how all that stuff kind of overlays together. That's gigantic.
But the market just plays into what we're trying to do as well, because to fit an aftermarket driver management and fatigue system, it's a huge undertaking. We can do it, and we do it, but it's far nicer for us to pull something that's been manufacturer fitted, mobile now in most new vehicles across the world. Pulling data into those machines is far easier than trying to replicate that with an aftermarket device, and far more reliable as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. So what do you see next? Where are you headed?
Well, all I can see next is Lloyd's lab. I can't see past the 31st of August. So hopefully we'll record a follow-up to this post 31st of August, and I'll have a smile on my face. If not, I'll burn this jersey as a token of bad luck and stick to LeBron's jersey.
Don't on me. Come on.
Either way, we'll consume an old-fashioned one way or another. But no, in all seriousness, the Lloyd's lab is huge for us. We do see that as the heart of insurance. Not just here, we've seen how you've done well with that backing from your experience in the lab. The InsurTech corridor that we're partnered with in Connecticut, they're very pleased for us to be in there. We've had a huge time with them in growing into the US. So My focus personally, the Lloyd's lab, and obviously growing the US market with insurance services, but also the MagTrack product through partnerships over there. And then I guess as we're trying to avoid being everything to everyone, but we do have a separate side of the business which is taking off in the IoT space, and that's quite a broad term, IoT. But what we're trying to do is reapply the technology that we have for vehicles in other sectors. So if you take, for example, the utility sector, it's one of the least digitized sectors out there. So we have proof of concept trials underway with things like gas pipeline monitoring. I've got to be careful what I can and can't say here, but gas pipeline monitoring, so we can monitor the conditions of pipelines where traditionally they've had to send helicopters and people down walking the physical pipelines to assess whether there's been any agricultural or building infringements on pipelines, looking at the detection of gas leaks through technology. And then the big one that I think you're aware of is ATM theft, looking at how we can better track ATMs being stolen, literally ripped out the wall and blown out the wall with explosive gas. So there's more to it. I can't really say much about that, but I think that will start to form a huge part of what we do moving into the second half of next year. But back to the 31st of August. That's all I can see for now.
That's awesome. You know what? I hope everybody's listening, because I think you getting into the lab would be amazing. I think the market needs to hear this because it's a game changer. From what I see, and again, I'm going to use the term telematics. It's more about intelligence, right? Telematics in the insurance space, people talk about it, but it's not easy. It's not easy. I think what you guys do makes it easier because you don't have to worry about all that hardware. So I'm excited. Let's talk about Vegas for a second. Since you're going to be a Vegas virgin. Oh my gosh, God bless your liver, man. You're going to have a hard time. So we're doing the InsurTech conference. This is going to be our first joint conference together. I'm excited. You excited?
Yeah, I am very. So InsurTech Connect, and that's the one that everyone's fingers are pointing towards. So InsurTech Australia will be there. We've got the InsurTech Corridor representing there as well. And it just made sense to collaborate, because everything you guys win over there, we benefit from, and everything we win over there, we can look to bring you guys in and upsell to. It just seems like the team works, essentially. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. First time in Vegas, like you say. I'm not too sure about the trip home. I've managed to somehow land myself on a night flight to New York with a 13-hour layover, then another night flight back to the UK. So I'm more worried about the way home than the time out there.
Don't worry. I'll make sure that you see all the interesting sides of Vegas.
That's what I'm worried about.
Oh no, it's gonna be a good trip. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited about where all this is headed. I think this is all amazing. Again, I think that the market in London, specifically with this Lloyd's Lab pitch day, dude, they have to hear what you're talking about. I think you're going to get a lot of support. I think so.
I mean, everywhere we've spoken about it. First of all, we've been to a couple of big conferences in the US, and the first response is what you guys can pull data from aftermarket telemetry, because there are a few people pulling data from OEMs. That data is fairly readily available, but what we've been told time and time again that nobody else can do is pull data from OEM, pull data from aftermarket TSP. We've got just over 60 integrations now in different TSPs, and supply our own hardware for those vehicles that aren't connected. No one's doing that right now. So the message is good. We have a few early adopters, and the big barriers we always faced in the old days of, Mr. and Mrs. Insurer, can we supply you with our telemetry? Well, we have something in place, or we have a similar box, or can we reduce the price of the box? It's always a barrier fitting that box. So if we can remove that barrier, then it's endless the possibilities that we can bring to the table.
I agree. Well, I'm excited. I think we're going to have a lot of fun together. We got a lot more work to do. I can't sleep. I can't take vacations. I think I took 3 days off, or I didn't even know how to turn my out of office on my Outlook. I haven't done it in 20 years.
You and I took a break in hills, mountains, the desert. It's not a hill over there, is it? We took a break, and even then, you're always pretty much on your phone. There's no time off, is there really?
There's a song. There ain't no rest. Ain't no rest for the wicked. There you go.
Yeah. Money don't grow on trees.
And money in life ain't free. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I love you, man. It's been a fun journey already. One more question.
Yeah.
So if you get into the lab, are you going to rent the same house in East Croydon? I think we're going to have people in London that are going to want to know the answer to that question.
Absolutely not.
Come on now.
I think the experience that I've had in East Croydon has put me off. Sorry to any East Croydon natives listening or watching this, but yeah, if Scott offers you the opportunity to go to a certain pub in a certain part of a certain town called East Croydon, I'd just say, say you're washing your hair that night like I should have done.
The Opal Tavern. Listen, life is about stories, right? We have good stories.
We do. Probably not fit for this podcast, but yeah, it was a good story. But no, I think we'll be staying fairly local to the lab, but I won't need to be staying there every weekend. So I'll be up and down. I'll be using that West Coast main line. So hopefully the strikes will be in our favour and we can get up and down quite easily. But yeah, we're throwing everything at it, and yeah, looking forward to it. So I think between pitch day is the 31st, demo day is the 6th of December. So that's a lot of work in between then. So around about the 6th or 7th of December, I can put my feet up, I think.
There you go. Awesome. Well, listen, I'm pulling for you. I think this is something good that the market needs. Fingers, legs, toes crossed. 31st. I got to see if I can get out there to be for pitch day. If not, I can tune in electronically. I'll be there one way or another.
Yeah, I know you will.
Awesome. Well, listen, thanks for being here.
No worries.
We're going to go kick some ass, and we'll talk more soon.
I hope you enjoyed our show today. Remember, when it comes to creativity and innovation, I always like to quote one of my favorite lines out of the movie Tommy Boy. If you ain't growing, you're dying. There ain't no third direction. My name's Scott Greenbus. I'll see you on the next show. Peace.